On Thursday Night Football against Clemson, Leon broke a 97-yard kickoff return against the Tigers of Clemson for a touchdown. Hey, if you like this kind of content, how about subscribing to our channel if you haven't done that yet? Do us that solid and take care of that business. Subscribe to the channel, hit the alarm bell, that way you get all of our drops. Also, I'm trying to get to my first 1,000 subscribers, so if you can help along with that, go ahead and do that too. So,
what are we waiting for?
I'm here to tell you all about my personal favorite, an NFL hidden gem. To find that gem, look no further than Leon Washington. I know, some of you may not have even heard of him before, or you might have just forgotten. But whose fault is that? It's not mine. When he shined bright like a shooting star. So, let me bring you up to speed with what all of you should already know, especially if you're a Florida State fan or just an NFL fan, even just a football fan. Leon Washington was born on August 29, 1982, in Jacksonville, Florida. He grew up on Jacksonville's rough east side section. During that time, he lived with his mother, his father, and his 5 siblings in the Oakland Terrace apartments. As with many families in rough areas and where money is hard to come by at times, his father left the family when he was just 12. But even with that obstacle in life, they still have a close relationship till this day. Times were tough and only got tougher as times got leaner. For one to make it, it is rarely exclusively a solo act. A strong commitment to excellence and the right people to keep you on track is part of the journey for those who really thirst for success. When Leon's family was feeling the pinch and his mother needed help, in stepped his grandmother, Eleanor Mangrum, a strong woman who knew the value of hard work. She worked for years as a nurse and knew that nothing was ever given to one who claimed they wanted more. With his grandmother as the beacon of hope and Leon having so many athletic gifts, all he needed was guidance. To that end, his godfather, police officer John Mike, entered the picture. Officer Mike recruited a 10-year-old Washington for his Pop Warner team after seeing him win a neighborhood foot race. The blazing speed of the 10-year-old at such an early age made the neighborhood kids tab him the chosen one. As such, Leon's Pop Warner team would eventually play their championship game at the Gator Bowl, which was just a stone's throw away from his doorstep where it all started. The team lost the game, but the legend was just beginning. Leon ended up going to high school. First, a short stint at University Christian in Jacksonville, and then Andrew Jackson High School, where the myth and the legend would take off in front of everyone's eyes. If only it were really that simple. Leon did not play during his sophomore year at Jackson. However, Jackson High School's Florida High School Hall of Fame coach Kevin Sullivan prodded Leon about joining the team after hearing the story of Leon's exploits on the Pop Warner level. In fact, Coach Sullivan would make it a point to tease Leon, calling him the PWL, which meant Pop Warner Legend, putting the pressure on him to come out for the team. Obviously, Washington relented. He decided to play high school football and he came out for his junior year. This is where I came in. Moving from New York City in 2000 to Jacksonville, Florida was a chance I believe was worth taking. I was attempting to get into the sports radio industry. I had a love for sports, obviously, but high school sports had a special place. I ended up going to my first high school football game in Jacksonville along with a friend of mine, Coach Tony Camaro. He also loved high school football. He also knew talent when he saw it. So I knew I was with someone who could confirm whatever it is we saw at the games. The game we chose was Jackson High School versus Fletcher. I came to that game in particular because I wanted to watch Seattle Seahawks. He was the top running back in Florida and easily one of the top running backs in the nation as a junior. He was already a University of Florida commit. everyone figured he would be the newest Gator star and eventually NFL player, following in the footsteps of the legendary Emmitt Smith. You see, in New York City, high school football does not get the attention that it gets down in the South. But seeing Seatric's name in a recruiting publication in New York City meant something, because if he's in a New York publication when it comes to recruiting, that means he's serious. It's something you needed to see, and I wanted to see for myself what it was all about. To be honest, both teams were good when we showed up. We didn't get a program upon entering the stadium because we had trouble getting to the stadium. I was still new to Jacksonville. The PA system wasn't clear enough as we sat on the visiting sideline. I figured when a player is special, you notice them right away. It doesn't take much to see a special player. However, Jackson had a good defense. During this time, we saw number 40 on Fletcher. He broke a pretty big run. I thought that was Seatric. It wasn't. On the other side, however, I saw number 3 for Jackson. Immediately after seeing him touch the ball and do what he did with that football, I knew he was something special. I straight up said, I know who we came to see, but this number 3 is the best player on the field and may be the best player in the state. I came to that conclusion because in my opinion, and probably the opinion of others, Florida is such a football-rich state. If you are the best in Florida, you have a serious argument of being one of the best in the country, if not the best in the country. Leon went on to dominate the game in practically the rest of the season. He wasn't even the starting running back at the time that we saw him. He was flanker, he ran punts, he ran kickoffs, he was the punter. He did everything on the football field, but one thing was for sure. Every time he played, every Friday he played, 100% of the times, he was the best player on the field, regardless of who they played. In his senior year, he entered the season as the number 1 cornerback in the country, according to Rivals.com. In addition, he ended up winning the title of Mr. Football in the state of Florida while rushing for 2,437 yards with 27 touchdowns, 3 punts for touchdowns, and a kickoff return for a touchdown. I was personally at the game in which he ran that kickoff back. It was, I believe, a 93 or 97-yard kickoff return for a touchdown against a school called Ridgeview in Clay County, Florida. Jackson was behind in that game, and Leon was the difference in winning that game and continuing their undefeated season up to that point. After Leon's senior year, he chose to go to Florida State University where he was going to get a shot at running back. However, Florida State also secured the number 1 running back in the class that year from St. Bonaventure High School in California, Lorenzo Booker, the first high school player to make his college announcement on ESPN. After all the hoopla, summer camp rolls around. During summer camp, the two were given the opportunity to battle to get playing time, backing up the incumbent Greg Jones. When it was all said and done, Lorenzo Booker chose to redshirt as Leon would get significant playing time as a true freshman. Leon did not waste any time impressing viewers once he got an opportunity at Florida State. On Thursday Night Football against Clemson, Leon broke a 97-yard kickoff return against the Tigers of Clemson for a touchdown. To put a lid on the season, he capped off the regular season against rival Florida, rushing for 134 yards while taking over for the now injured Greg Jones, who suffered a devastating knee injury. Leon will go on to gain 387 yards as a sophomore in a loaded backfield when Greg Jones came back and Lorenzo Booker was off of his redshirt year, but would have his best year as a collegiate player as a junior when he rushed for 951 yards, averaging nearly 7 yards a carry, capped off by a Gator Bowl MVP winning 195 yards and 12 carries and a touchdown. That's over 16 yards per carry for that bowl game against West Virginia. In Leon's final season at FSU, he came back down to earth just a little bit with a pedestrian 430 yards rushing with just 3 touchdowns. Most of that was a result of an ankle injury that he had suffered against Maryland and missed 2 games because of it, and he never got back into his junior groove. But he would leave FSU in high esteem, having been the only player in the Bobby Bowden era to score touchdowns in 5 different ways: by running, by reception, by punt return, and kickoff return, and even a fumble recovery. In 2006, it was time for Leon to take his talents to the NFL, fulfilling the dream he had since his days at the Oakland Terrace Apartments. The New York Jets made Leon their second of 2 fourth-round picks and the 117th pick overall, as the pick was compensation from Kansas City for former Jets coach Herm Edwards, as he had taken the head coaching job at Kansas City. Leon immediately brought excitement to the New York Jets, just as he did at FSU, giving Jets fans a glimpse of the excitement he had in store for the long-suffering fans of the franchise by taking a kickoff 87 yards in his second preseason game against Washington. When the regular season began, Leon proved to have the star quality the New York area loves. He finished his rookie season with a career and team high 650 yards rushing with 4 touchdowns. In addition, he made 25 catches, averaging over 10 yards per reception, stamping his card as the playmaker for the Jets. In 2007, his second season, Leon led the league with 3 kickoff returns for touchdowns, including a 98-yarder while rolling up 2,040 yards of all-purpose yardage. If NFL fans felt Washington's accomplishments up to this point were a fluke, what would he do for an encore in 2008? How about leading the league in all-purpose yards with 2,332 yards, including a 94-yard kickoff return for touchdown and 6 rushing touchdowns, which resulted in his first invite to the Pro Bowl and first-team All-Pro honors. On top of that, Brett Favre, the former Green Bay Packer great, at the time starting Jets quarterback, he said, "I don't believe there's a better MVP in the league this season than Leon." Leon was on top of the world heading into the 2009 season and ready to receive his well-deserved reward for being the Jets' best player, a new contract. As intense negotiations dragged on, Leon played all the way up to the road game against the Oakland Raiders, with his Jets trying to right the ship on a 3-game losing streak. That would be the last game Leon would play for the New York Jets, as he suffered a compound fracture to his fibula, effectively ending his season. Later in the offseason, the Jets traded Leon to the Seattle Seahawks for a 5th rounder. It took a while for recovery, but the determined Washington wanted to get back on the field. For his family, for the fans, for himself. He rewarded the Seattle Seahawks for their faith in him by setting a record by returning 2 kickoffs for touchdown in one game against the San Diego Chargers. Leon would eventually get released by the Seahawks and end up in New England, where he was cut during final cuts. He later would resign just to be released again. Yeah, that's the NFL. That's the business part. He would finally end his career with the Tennessee Titans. During Leon's playing days, he did many things for the community like most players in the NFL. They represent the city in which they play. Being a Jacksonville native, Leon never forgot about his own city, the place where the legend and journey began. He has conducted several free player camps and clinics for kids throughout Jacksonville. Even my own son has attended a couple. With the help of the coaches and people who have always been there for him, his endeavors have become a success. He always made it a point to come back to his high school and anywhere else that could use a dose of Washington magic. Today, and even before, Leon is the family man he was destined to become. He has children of his own who have their own dreams of football glory. He is a proud father with a newly crowned fiancée to make it complete. Finally, you can now find him on the New York Jets sidelines as a special teams coach and at the Senior Bowl when it rolls around, giving his brand of encouragement and enthusiasm, as only he knows how. Devin Hester and Leon Washington. There is just something about these Florida boys when it comes to this game of football, especially on special teams. I'm glad I got a chance to know one of them. Until next time.